We are going to rock the world. It's been a while. It's Animal Thunderdome time.
Roberto's still shaking from the shake.
What happened there? I thought, did the earthquake knock out the Animal Thunderdome soundtrack?
Roberto had just dropped his mic from talking about Joe Kelly.
Yeah.
He thought he had just made such a statement. He thought his day was done.
This enormous piece of chicken.
Dying times here.
I had a boa constrictor stuck to my face. And you have a what?
This is Animal Thunderdome.
All right, what you got for me, Danny G?
This story was tweeted into us dozens and dozens of times. Now, if you have a weak stomach or kids in the car, I would recommend to turn it down, the audio down just for a minute here. A sad story. Former president of accessories brand Kipling, which is, I guess, a big deal in the fashion world, was killed by a great white shark while swimming with her daughter off the coast of Maine. She was 63. This New York City woman, pretty well known in the fashion industry, died when she was attacked by a great white shark. Julie Holowak was swimming in a wetsuit with her daughter near Bailey Island there in Maine on Monday.
It's the first shark attack death in the history of Maine.
Yeah. And here's the part where I was like, okay, I'm going to have to say turn it down if you have a weak stomach, because an eyewitness says that Holowak had appeared to be thrown up in the air by something and then held underwater. Another eyewitness said the same thing. Her daughter saw all of this. They say two kayakers were able to help Holowak, the former president of Kipling, back to shore so that she could be treated on land. But Marine Patrol says that she was pronounced dead at the scene. The U.S. Coast Guard said it was alerted to the shark attack just after 3:30 p.m. after her uninjured daughter was able to swim back to shore and call for help before she collapsed in the sand, crying, screaming for help. What a nightmare.
I don't know that we need. So this is an awful story. This is a great white in Maine. It's the first ever shark attack on a human in the history of Maine to end in a death.
And a lot of people on Twitter were questioning why you would be in those waters right now, because apparently I know they were in wetsuits.
Yeah,
but
it's super cold.
A lot of the comments from people in that area said that it's unusual for people to be swimming because of how cold that water is.
Yeah, and they said that they've had a huge increase along the upper Northeast in seal populations, and that maybe there has been confusion among the sharks, which if you look at the data, a lot of times, surfers, for instance, who are out on surfboards or people who are in wetsuits or whatever, the shark can get confused and think that initially it is a seal and not a human. But yeah, that's an awful story. I read about it. I got sent that by a bunch of people as well.
Yeah, really bad. And by the way, the Maine Department for Marine Resources said they recovered a tooth fragment, so they were able to confirm that it was a great white responsible.
Right.
All right, let's move on to the next story here. This is from Kerala, India. Better ending to this story. And it sounds like this could be a Lifetime made-for-TV movie here. Neighbors were hesitant to approach a toddler who was in quarantine with her family who was bit by a viper.
Oh.
A headload worker moved quickly to save the little girl's life. Janelle Matthew, who is the truck loader, was... he was the only one to step forward. The entire family was in this quarantine because they had just moved to the area on July 16th. So there in India, if you move to a new residential area, they put you in an automatic quarantine.
Because of the coronavirus right now, obviously. Yeah.
Exactly. So
in addition to being in quarantine, the kid got bit by a viper.
Right.
It's a tough combo.
The couple say that they saw neighbors crowding outside their house, but nobody came inside to help. The dad says it was because we were in quarantine, so everybody was scared. This guy, Janelle, though, who lives opposite from their house, said, screw that. He ran in, and this is where it sounds like a movie scene. It says, Janelle went straight to the room, killed the snake, picked its carcass up in one hand, the little girl in the other, and had his cell phone pressed between his ear and shoulder. He was not even wearing a shirt, the dad said, but was doing everything like Superman. By the time he reached the road, an ambulance had arrived.
So this dude sweeps into the house, kills the snake in one hand.
Yep.
Picks up the injured toddler in the other hand.
After bandaging her arm, by the way.
And it simultaneously basically is calling 911 so that there's an ambulance to take him to the hospital.
Better than that, I don't know about if they have a 911 service, but it says Janelle had the quick thinking to call his friend who drives an ambulance in the town, and they put the girl in the front seat of the ambulance and quickly got her to the nearest hospital.
This dude sounds like the Jason Bourne of India right now.
And by the way, the doctors there said if it was 15 minutes later, she would not have lived.
And instead, so this guy literally saved the girl's life.
Yeah. Now, unfortunately, they tested the little girl, and she tested positive for COVID.
Oh.
Which, as we know, is very rare for someone that young to have it. So now he's in quarantine. The hero is in quarantine and has to be tested regularly for COVID.
And when he gets out, there's just going to be a huge line of women. Do we know this guy if he's single?
It doesn't say.
I hope he's single. Because I would think, I'm not an expert on what Indian women want, but I would think man who storms into a house shirtless, kills a snake, saves a toddler, saves her life, gets her into a car, that's probably something where if you're an Indian woman in that area, I would imagine that you're swooning.
What a pimp! You imagine writing that as your profile?
What about the dad of the little girl?
He was just panicking along with the mom, hoping that one of the neighbors would step in and help.
Right. So I don't think that's a good look for the dad. I mean, he basically got dunked on by this savior who comes running in shirtless.
You're not wrong.
I'm not sure that his wife's going to stay with him. She might end up with the shirtless guy now. That might be the plot twist at the end of this. And then she left her loser husband and went with the savior.
All right, let's close out with two quick pet owners will like these two stories we're going to close with here. A dog who jumped out of a car window on a South Carolina highway was found 11 days later, 600 miles away in Florida. Tim Whitfield says his family got the dog Bella for his 90-year-old mom just a few months ago. Earlier this month, the dog vanished after leaping from a car window on the highway near Charleston. Whitfield says Belle was located Sunday, 11 days after jumping out of the car window, 600 miles away.
Why did the dog jump out?
That's a good question.
I mean, maybe the story here is that these are bad owners.
I mean,
most dogs like to put their head out the window and fill the air.
Yeah.
But I usually don't have to keep your dog from jumping out.
Maybe he wanted like a younger, like more active owner. I mean, he was gifted to a 90-year-old.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, the dog seems like it's kind of a cry for help, it seems to me.
So, obviously.
I mean, how bad would you feel if your dog just jumped out the window? Like, you're like, man, at least I've got you, Rover. And then Rover's like, I'm out, peace, and he just jumps out the window while you're driving down the road. I've never even heard of that happening.
They found the dog in Miami, by the way.
And then the dog ran to Miami.
Yeah.
So it's a Florida. We got Florida man. We got a Florida dog.
And then a similar story from Utah. A Utah animal shelter said a cat that went missing 10 years ago was reunited with her owner after being brought in as a stray. The animal shelter there said a stray cat was recently brought into the shelter by a person who said that they had been feeding this stray, but they wanted it to be checked for a chip. Yeah. So the shelter scanned the cat for a microchip and found the contact information for a man who identified the cat as Mocha, his daughter's cat, when she was like 10 years old.
So Mocha shows back up. Here's a question for you. Yeah. I'm curious on this. Would it make sense so that I understand, because we're getting these new cats and they're going to have microchips in them so we can be scanned or whatever.
I was going to ask you about that. You found two Russian blue?
No, we ended up getting the tiger cats.
The Bengals.
The Bengal tigers.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, not real tigers, not like Tiger Hunt.
Yeah, they're mini tigers.
Yeah, not like Tiger King. But yeah, like little guys. So we're supposed to get those at some point, but they get the chips in them.
Yes.
Why would every kid not also get a computer chip in them? So, like, when you're a parent, one of the biggest fears you have is your kid getting kidnapped. If we're putting computer chips, like, just barely under the skin of animals so that we can make sure if they get lost, we can find them again, like just happened with that 10-year-old cat, why wouldn't we consider doing that with young children so that if your kid ever got kidnapped or lost, you could just figure out exactly where they were?
Probably because there's part of the population that is even against vaccines. So
yeah,
there
right.
would be a ton of people against microchips.
If you can put the microchip in the cat and find it like 10 years later, And everybody out there, a ton of people have used that Find My Phone feature. You know, if you lose your phone.
Yeah.
Isn't there almost a technology now for young children where you could do that? Am I crazy to even think about that?
Well, it would suck once you were a teenager and
Well,
your
I'm saying
parents were tracking
you would just get it pulled out, I think, at some point in your age. But I'm saying
Got
for
you.
really young children, when I heard about this microchip that the cats are going to have,
Yeah.
I was like, that's great. And my kids are getting older now. But one of the things you fear if you're a parent is, oh, my God, what if my kid got kidnapped? I would never know what happened to them. I would never know where they were. What if you had the ability, like just, I don't know, underneath, like it can't be that painful for the animal if they're doing it. What if you had the ability to do that for humans? Am I crazy for thinking of that? Or do other parents immediately think of that? Like when I'm paying all this money for a cat and it has a microchip in it, I'm like, that's great. I don't ever want to lose my cat. But on the scale of losing something, I'm way more concerned, 1,000,000,000% more concerned as a parent about my kid disappearing.
No.
Am I blowing everybody's mind this morning? They're sitting around thinking, yeah, why do we have microchips in cats? Why don't we have them in 5-year-olds?
Roberto, you have a daughter. Would you chip
Roberto,
her?
is this a
I
crazy
would
question?
definitely love it. I have a daughter just to know where she is at all times. When she gets older, yeah, that'd be great.
I mean, don't you think, like, as a parent, don't you? I mean, I'm not unique in this, right? Being like having a kid kidnapped is one of the worst fears of every
big
parent.
time, man. Yeah.
And so, if you knew that you could, and then having your kid disappear and never knowing what happened to them is one of the worst things that could ever happen to a parent. And so, we just had this cat get reunited with its owner. I don't understand why the technology is all being applied to animals.
No, that's a good point. And by the way, the man's daughter, who's now an adult, came into the shelter. There's a cool video of her being reunited with her long-lost pet. The shelter said the story should serve as a reminder of how important it is to bring stray animals in to be scanned for microchips.
Yeah, I mean, and also the fact that microchips work. Well, anyway, my mind is blown here. I might have just blown your mind thinking about it, but that's the first thought I had when I heard that our new cats, I've never had an animal with a microchip in it before, but evidently our new animals are going to have microchips.
When do they arrive?
I think they're supposed to get here. My family's out of town right now. I think they're supposed to get here at the end of August.
Oh, very cool.
Oh, sorry. Maybe mid-August. I'm not sure. I'm not the expert on the cat purchase. I just know the cat purchase has happened.
Isn't it weird having such a quiet house?
I have no idea what to do with myself.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, Clay actually talks to us during the commercial breaks.
Well, usually my kids are running around.
Usually you're running up and down stairs wrangling children.
It's so
making
weird
breakfast, everything else, especially since the shutdowns have happened. My kids are, always running around and yelling and everything else. But, yeah, it's a totally weird situation to be in the house. And I'm going to be here like 10 days solo. It's weird to be in the house and not have any sounds and just be like – I understand now why people are like, oh, I've got to downsize. Like, once your kids actually leave the house and it's just you and your wife, like, why do you have a decent-sized house? Like, you're not using the vast majority of it.
Yeah, it makes complete sense.
Anyway, I need microchips, and I need my family back sooner rather than later.
Ask Dr. Chow about it.
About microchips?
About the chips, yeah.
I'll see. I'm wondering I'm actually curious if you have also thought of this. If you have, like, am I the only person who's thought of this? It seems like a natural next step when you find out that your animal has got a microchip. The kid that you care about way more, why can't the kid have a microchip?
James Bond also had a chip inside of him.
Yeah, I mean, like in movies, like there's always somebody who has to cut out the microchip or whatever. You know, they're being tracked. Eddie, what have you got for me?
I don't have any kids, but don't they do this for newborns? Don't they put some kind of low jack on them or something when they're in the hospital?
Well, when they're in the hospital, but it's just on the wristband.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
to confirm, to keep a baby from being stolen out of, like, they shut down basically like a hospital if somebody tries to take a newborn out of the newborn ward or whatever else.
So Eddie's proposing an ankle bracelet on children.
Yeah. I mean, if you don't want to go with the chip, I think that's a nice secondary choice.
Just go ahead and put them on parole. At the moment they're born. Ankle bracelet. So I don't know what the technology is behind it, that whether that would allow, and maybe super rich people are already doing this and they're like, you're late to the curve. But if I have to choose between putting microchips in my cats or my kids, I think I'd go with kid, especially the young ones. Now I think you can get it out like 14, 15 years old, but when you're like kidnappable age, I mean, I think that's something that a lot of parents would like to have. Maybe that's the next business I need to get into.